I made my ex think she destroyed me, until I announced my engagement. My story begins 4 years ago in Austin, Texas. I was 29, fresh out of a relationship that had left me in ruins, emotionally drained, cut off from my friends, and with my self-esteem at rock bottom. I'd lost my appetite, my sleep, and any desire to try with someone new. My days had become a blur of work, silence, and an empty routine that felt endless. That's when I met Natalie. I first saw her at a party thrown by an old coworker. I hadn't planned to go, but something pushed me out of the house that night. She was already there when I arrived. It was impossible not to notice her. Her laugh was louder than the music, and the way she moved through the crowd felt like a natural performance. She had that magnetic energy that made heads turn. Her presence didn't just fill the room, it commanded it. I watched her from across the space for a few minutes, until suddenly, she spoke to me like we'd known each other forever. Her voice was sharp, confident, like someone who feared nothing. I wasn't planning on dating again anytime soon. I'd locked that door tightly, but Natalie came crashing through it like a storm. And without realizing, I let her all the way in. The first few months were intense, passionate, wild, spontaneous. She made me feel alive after months of barely surviving. We shared late-night meals, unplanned weekend getaways, and long talks about absurd dreams and hidden traumas. There was something addictive in the way she carried herself, a charming chaos that wrapped around me before I even noticed. I worked in cybersecurity, long hours in front of screens, high-stakes decisions, but with stable pay. She was supposedly a freelance graphic designer. I never saw much real work, but she insisted her projects were client-based and that creativity couldn't be rushed. 6 months in, she suggested we move in together. I felt flattered, like we were taking a big step. Everything went under my name, lease, utilities, even the furniture was mine. But she always said what mattered most was that we were building something together. At first, it worked. We laughed a lot, embraced arguments in silence, and made peace with long kisses and empty promises that, at the time, felt real. But things started to change. It began with small financial favors. Can I borrow your card for a quick purchase? Or my account's frozen, I'll transfer you later. At first, they were minor amounts, but soon, unfamiliar charges started appearing. Clothes she never wore, beauty products I never saw, spa services I never approved. When I confronted her, she deflected by going on the attack, said I was controlling, that I didn't trust her, that I made her feel like a child under surveillance. And for a while, I believed her. I thought maybe my broken past was making me see things that weren't there. I felt guilty for doubting her. I convinced myself I was overreacting, that work stress was clouding my judgment. But it wasn't that. The truth was there, waiting to erupt. And it was darker than I ever imagined. Debt collectors started calling. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a wrong number, until one mentioned a specific debt that matched one of my cards. That's when every alarm went off. I started combing through my accounts. My stomach dropped as I realized how much money had vanished. Over $40,000. Charges from luxury stores, streaming platforms we didn't use, dating apps, even domestic flights, all traced back to my accounts. She had access to everything. My cards, PayPal, Amazon, even passwords I'd share during one of those blind moments of trust. And she used it all like it was hers, like everything I earned belonged to her. When I confronted her, with screenshots, statements, exact dates, she didn't show remorse. She flipped it instantly, screamed that I was spying on her, that I'd violated her privacy, that I was some sick control freak. She cried in anger, not in guilt. Slammed doors, threw things, threatened to take our dog if I didn't back off. I stood there frozen. At that moment, I no longer knew who I was. I felt like a guest in my own life. Then came the final blow. One afternoon, Emily, her best friend from college, came by to drop off some things. As we chatted, she asked how Natalie had been since the trip. I frowned. What trip? She looked confused. The girls' weekend in Denver. You didn't know. That's when I knew something was wrong. I played dumb, and that night, I checked social media, private photos, but easy to find through alternate accounts. There she was, Natalie, with another man, hugging, laughing, kissing. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was something deeper. The same smile, the same gaze she once gave me. I said nothing to Emily. I couldn't, not yet. I just nodded, thanked her, and once she left, I sat in silence. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just listened to the hollow sound of our apartment as everything inside me slowly disconnected, and I started to quietly unravel every thread of the life I had built with Natalie. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I planned. First, I locked my accounts, transferred funds, froze cards, talked to a lawyer to understand my rights. Since everything was under my name and we weren't married, I had the upper hand. I faked a work trip, packed my essentials, hired movers in advance. When she left for another so-called freelance job in Dallas, I saw my window. I had calculated everything: what time she'd leave, how long she'd be gone, what she could carry alone. I knew she had a session with a client who didn't exist. She wore more makeup than usual, a new dress, and rushed out the door, unaware it would be the last time she crossed that threshold, as if it were hers. As soon as she was gone, I activated the plan. I called the movers I had on standby. They arrived in under 20 minutes. As they packed furniture and boxed my things, I grabbed important documents, backup drives, even small sentimental items, my grandmother's mug, my vinyl collection, signed books. This wasn't just a move, it was an exorcism. Erasing every trace of me from the space she had poisoned, I left nothing that held emotional weight. Every item had a story, and if it stayed, she'd twist it. I left the walls bare, the drawers open, and silence echoing. In the middle of the living room, on the table we once shared, I left the letter. That letter, I know everything. Every wasted dollar, every lie told with a smile, every name you tried to hide. You drained me until I was empty, but while you celebrated my downfall, I rebuilt myself in silence. I became stronger, wiser, uncheckable. Do not contact me. There's nothing left to say. No apology that could fix this. This isn't revenge. It's emotional justice. It's closure, for me. And a new beginning. Without you, I blocked her on everything. But life wasn't finished with me. On the contrary, it was just starting to give me a second chance. In the months that followed, I turned inward like never before. I started therapy, something I'd avoided for years. I spoke about my childhood, my fears, how I let someone like Natalie have so much power over me. It was painful, but freeing. I regained control over my finances, closed accounts tied to the past, and even enrolled in cooking classes, something I'd always wanted but never allowed myself because I was too busy supporting someone else. I also reconnected with friends I had pushed away. Many told me they suspected Natalie for a long time, but didn't know how to warn me without losing me too. They welcomed me back without resentment. They listened. They helped me remember who I was before the storm. That's when Emily and I started talking more. At first, it was casual, just checking in, reacting to social media posts, spontaneous calls at night, but our conversations became longer, more genuine. We talked about what we'd been through, how Natalie had used us both, how she divided people without them even realizing it, and between laughter, shared stories, and comfortable silences, something new began to form. Turns out she was also broken inside, but not defeated. She had been deceived, manipulated, turned into a side character in someone else's story, and, in me, she found what I found in her: refuge. We healed slowly, gave each other space to feel without guilt. We laughed like people unafraid to be vulnerable, we cried openly, and we drew closer the way only to people who truly understand pain can. Over time, we went from friends to something deeper. We took it slow, so slow it felt like learning to walk again. We didn't want to repeat the past. We wanted to build something honest, something real. Our relationship became the exact opposite of what we had both escaped: peaceful, respectful, built on trust. We knew each other's scars and didn't flinch at the sight of them. Instead, we embraced them. We shared simple days and meaningful moments, cooking together while soft music played, aimless walks through quiet neighborhoods, deep conversations at midnight, and silences that felt warm, not empty. We learned how to be with each other without constantly needing to impress. For the first time, I felt loved without conditions, without traps, without mind games. 2 years later, we're in Santorini, the ocean behind us, breeze in our hair, smiles more real than I'd ever known. I kneel before her, heart pounding not from fear, but from gratitude. Emily covers her mouth, tears fill her eyes, and her nervous laugh lights up the moment. I post the photo, me on one knee, ring in hand, her eyes wide, hands over her face. The caption: she thought she broke me. I just needed time to find someone who deserved me. The post blew up. Friends cheered. Former colleagues congratulated. Emmy, distant relatives I hadn't seen in years commented on how happy I looked. Many said they'd never seen me so full, so free. And somewhere in Texas, I'm sure Natalie saw it. Not because someone sent it to her, not because she looked for it, but because the world spins, and eventually, everything finds its place. I didn't need to rub it in. I didn't tag anyone. But she knew, because Emily was in the photo. Her best friend, the one person she never thought would turn her back. But some betrayals don't go unanswered.